When you hear the word bisexual, what image comes to mind? Maybe you imagine someone who's attracted to both men and women, someone figuring it out, or someone who can't choose. But what about when bisexual people fall in love, form relationships, commit to partners, or build families? What do bi relationships really look like, and why are they so often misunderstood? Welcome to 6 Facts About Bi Relationships, Love Beyond Labels, a journey into the truth about how bisexual people experience, navigate, and redefine romantic love. Because the truth is, bi relationships are often misrepresented, judged, or erased entirely, not just in mainstream media, but in everyday conversations. Whether a bisexual person is dating a man, a woman, or someone non-binary, there's often an assumption that their sexuality is on pause, in transition, or somehow not valid. That assumption is not only wrong, it's deeply harmful. Bi relationships don't follow a script. They don't look one way. They're as diverse, committed, complicated, joyful, messy, and beautiful as any other kind of relationship. But due to persistent stereotypes, like the idea that bisexual people are more likely to cheat, are never satisfied, or can't commit, bi individuals often have to work twice as hard to feel seen and understood in their relationships. They may even feel like they have to defend their identity, especially when their partner's gender leads others to assume they're straight or gay. Let's pause and remember this. Bisexuality is not about who you're with, it's about who you're capable of loving. It's not a phase or a transitional identity. It doesn't disappear when you enter a relationship. In fact, many bi people in long-term partnerships still struggle with bi erasure, where their identity is completely overlooked just because they look straight or seem gay from the outside. This erasure can lead to isolation, insecurity, and even shame within the relationship. Not because of a lack of love, but because of a lack of understanding from the outside world. In this episode, we're pulling back the curtain on what it really means to be in a bi relationship. We'll explore 6 important facts that challenge the myths and uplift the truth. From commitment to communication, from invisibility to empowerment, these facts don't just help bi people feel seen, they help everyone learn how to build healthier, more respectful relationships across the board. Whether you're in a relationship with a bi partner, identify as bi yourself, or just want to grow your understanding of the spectrum of human love, you're in the right place. It's time to drop the stereotypes, rethink the assumptions, and embrace the reality of bi relationships in all their truth and richness. Fact 1. A bi person's partner doesn't define their sexuality. One of the biggest and most common misunderstandings about bisexuality, especially when it comes to relationships, is this idea that the gender of the person you're dating determines your sexuality. This is not only false, but it erases the identity of millions of bisexual people around the world. Let's break it down simply. Bisexuality means being attracted to more than one gender. It doesn't mean half straight, half gay, or that someone flips back and forth depending on their partner. A bisexual person is bi whether they're single, dating, married, or in any kind of relationship. Their identity is about their capacity for attraction, not their current romantic situation. Here's an example. Imagine someone who speaks 2 languages, say English and Spanish. If they're currently having a conversation in English, does that mean they've stopped knowing Spanish? Of course not. They're simply engaging with one part of who they are in that moment. Their ability to speak Spanish is still valid and real, even if they're not using it right now. The same goes for bisexuality. A bisexual person's current partner doesn't erase their identity. Unfortunately, society often sees things in black and white. If a bisexual woman is dating a man, people often assume she's straight. If she later dates a woman, people may suddenly label her as a lesbian. This back and forth labeling isn't just incorrect, it's deeply frustrating and invalidating. It sends a harmful message that bisexuality only exists when it's visibly balanced, or that it's just a phase between picking a side. But bisexuality is not about balance or switching. It's a whole identity, just like being straight or gay. It stays with you, no matter who you love. Many bisexual people are in long-term monogamous relationships, and they often report feeling like they have to prove their queerness because they don't look bi. But love isn't about appearances, it's about connection. And sexuality isn't about your partner, it's about you. This misunderstanding leads to something called bi erasure, where bisexual people are made invisible, even within their own relationships. It can feel lonely. It can create unnecessary shame. And it can even strain the relationship itself when one partner doesn't recognize or affirm the other's identity. That's why it's so important to understand this basic truth. A bisexual person is still bisexual, no matter who they're dating. Their identity is valid whether they're in a relationship or not. It doesn't go away just because it makes someone else more comfortable to label them differently. So, if you're in a relationship with a bi partner, remember, love them for all of who they are. Respect their full identity, not just the part that fits the present moment. And if you're by yourself, know this. Your identity is not defined by your partner, it's defined by you. Fact 2: bi erasure happens most in relationships that look straight or gay. Let's talk about something that often happens quietly, but can hurt deeply: bi erasure. It's when bisexual people are made to feel invisible, invalid, or simply not recognized for who they are. And surprisingly, one of the most common places this happens is inside their own relationships, especially those that look straight or gay from the outside. Here's what we mean. Imagine a bisexual woman in a loving, committed relationship with a man. To most people, that's a straight couple. They might say things like, "Oh, I didn't know you were straight," or "So you're not really part of the LGBTQ community anymore, right?" On the flip side, if that same woman were dating a woman, others might say, "You're gay now," or "So you were never really into guys?" See the problem? In both cases, people are erasing the truth of her bisexuality because they're focusing only on what they can see. The relationship becomes a box they try to fit her into. But her identity is not a costume she puts on and takes off depending on her partner. It's something deeper, something that lives inside her, whether she's single, dating, or married. This is bi erasure. And it doesn't always come from strangers. It can come from friends, family, coworkers, and yes, even from inside the LGBTQ+ community. It happens when people assume that a bi person's current relationship proves their true orientation. It happens when bi people are excluded from queer spaces because they don't look queer enough. It happens when their stories aren't told in movies, books, or conversations. Over time, it sends a painful message: you don't belong here. This invisibility can lead to loneliness, even in a happy relationship. It can make someone feel like they have to constantly explain themselves or defend why they still use the word bi. It can also cause internal struggles. Feeling like you're not queer enough for the LGBTQ+ world or normal enough for the straight world. That's a tough place to be. And here's something else. Bi erasure isn't just annoying, it has real mental health impacts. Studies have shown that bisexual people experience higher rates of anxiety, depression, and identity-related stress than both straight and gay individuals. Why? Because they often feel like they're living in the cracks between communities, seen by no one, understood by few. That's why recognizing and naming bi erasure is so important. Because visibility is powerful. When bisexual people are acknowledged in their full identity, regardless of who they're dating, they feel safer, stronger, and more whole. So, if you're someone who has ever questioned or assumed someone's identity based on their partner's gender, pause. Listen. Learn. And if you're bisexual and feel unseen in your own relationship, you are not alone. Your identity is real, it matters, and it doesn't vanish based on how others perceive you. Fact 3: bisexual people face unique challenges, even in loving relationships. Being in love doesn't automatically erase the struggles of being bisexual. In fact, bisexual people often face unique emotional, social, and identity challenges, even when they're in happy, healthy relationships. These challenges don't come from within the relationship itself, but from the world's lack of understanding about what bisexuality really means. Let's start with the pressure to prove your identity. Many bisexual people, especially those in monogamous relationships, often feel like they have to explain or defend their bisexuality. Imagine constantly hearing questions like, "But if you're with a man now, why do you still call yourself bi?" Or, "Are you sure you're not just confused?" These questions might seem harmless to someone asking, but to the person hearing them, they can feel like tiny paper cuts to the soul, over and over again. Even supportive partners can unintentionally contribute to this feeling. For example, if they downplay or dismiss their partner's bisexual identity by saying, "Well, that doesn't matter now. Because you're with me, it may seem loving on the surface." But it can actually feel like their identity is being erased or treated as irrelevant. Another challenge bisexual people face is the fear of being misunderstood or distrusted. There's a damaging stereotype that bisexual individuals are more likely to cheat, be indecisive, or crave more than their current partner can offer. These harmful myths are rooted in ignorance, not truth. But they still creep into people's minds, especially when bisexuality isn't fully understood or accepted. So a bi person might feel pressure to overprove their loyalty or explain that their bisexuality doesn't mean they're always tempted by other genders. It simply means they're capable of being attracted to more than one. But like anyone else, they've chosen their partner and are committed to them. Then there's the challenge of losing community. Some bisexual people feel less connected to the LGBTQ+ community when they're in a relationship that appears straight. They may feel like they no longer belong in queer spaces or fear being seen as not queer enough. This isolation can be painful, especially for people who've found safety and understanding in those communities. It's also worth noting that bisexual people, especially in relationships, are often left out of representation. TV shows, movies, and even activism rarely show bi people in long-term, loving relationships, unless it's to create drama or depict confusion. This lack of positive visibility can make it harder for bi individuals to feel seen and celebrated. So, what can help? Fact 4. Bisexual people can be in committed, monogamous relationships, just like anyone else. There's a stubborn myth floating around that says bisexual people can't commit. That if they're attracted to more than one gender, they must always want more, never be satisfied, or can't settle down with one person. This couldn't be further from the truth, and it's time we break that myth once and for all. Let's be absolutely clear. Bisexuality is about the capacity for attraction, not the inability to commit. Just like straight or gay people, bisexual people are capable of choosing one partner and building a meaningful, monogamous relationship. Being bisexual doesn't mean you're constantly pulled in different directions, or that your attractions turn into actions. It simply means you can be attracted to people of more than one gender, But like anyone else, you can love one person deeply and exclusively. Think of it this way. A straight man might find many women attractive, but he still chooses one partner when he's in a committed relationship. That doesn't make his love any less real, right? The same goes for a bisexual person. Having the capacity to be attracted to different genders doesn't erase the ability to be loyal, devoted, or emotionally fulfilled by one partner. Still, bisexual people often face unfair assumptions, especially in romantic relationships. They might be asked, "Aren't you afraid you'll miss being with the other gender? Doesn't monogamy feel limiting to you? How do I know you won't want something I can't give?" These questions don't come from reality, they come from misunderstanding. And when those kinds of assumptions are constantly thrown at someone, they begin to feel like they're under a microscope. That pressure can take a toll on their mental and emotional well-being, even within a happy relationship. This myth also contributes to biphobia and bi-erasure. Some people use the idea that bi folks can't commit to justify excluding them from potential relationships, friendships, or even queer spaces. Others wrongly label bi people as experimental or just going through a phase, which is not only incorrect, but also deeply dismissive. Let's turn that narrative around. Bisexual people have loving marriages, long-term partnerships, and beautiful monogamous relationships. Their bisexuality doesn't make them more or less faithful, it simply informs who they are, not how they behave in a committed bond. Just like anyone else, they bring honesty, love, effort, and heart into their partnerships. And here's the truth that needs to be repeated. Sexual orientation is not a predictor of loyalty, character is. Trust is built through respect and communication, not through someone's label. So if you're in a relationship with a bisexual person, celebrate their identity instead of fearing it. And if you're bisexual yourself, know this. Your ability to love one person fully is not diminished by your attractions. You are whole. Fact 5. Bisexual relationships are not defined by the gender of the partner. One of the most misunderstood aspects of bisexuality is the idea that who a bisexual person is dating somehow changes their identity. But here's the truth, bisexuality is not a phase, and it doesn't disappear when someone is in a relationship with one gender. A bisexual person in a relationship is still bisexual, no matter who their partner is. This misunderstanding is deeply rooted in the way society tends to see sexuality in black and white terms. When someone who identifies as bisexual is in a same-gender relationship, people often assume they must be gay or lesbian. If they're in a different gender relationship, others assume they must be straight. But bisexuality doesn't swing back and forth depending on who you're dating. It's not half gay and half straight. It's a whole identity that exists regardless of relationship status. Imagine telling someone, "You like both chocolate and vanilla ice cream, right?" And they say yes. Then you ask, "But you're eating vanilla today, does that mean you don't like chocolate anymore?" Of course not. That logic would sound silly when applied to food, but it's the exact same way bisexuality is often misunderstood. This assumption can be exhausting for bisexual people. They often feel like their identity is constantly questioned or erased. If they're with someone of the opposite gender, they might feel disconnected from the LGBTQ+ community because people assume they're no longer queer enough. And if they're with someone of the same gender, they might face questions like, "So, are you finally gay now?" It's a lose-lose situation that denies their right to simply exist as they are. Even partners can sometimes unintentionally contribute to this erasure. Saying things like, "Well, you're with me now, so does that mean you're straight/gay?" might seem like a harmless question, but it can feel invalidating. It puts pressure on the bisexual person to either justify their identity or suppress it to avoid conflict. What bisexual people want is simple: to be seen, respected, and understood without having to constantly explain themselves. Their relationships don't make them less bi, and their identity doesn't change depending on who they love. It's also important to recognize that bisexual people can feel pride in their identity even if their current relationship looks straight or gay from the outside. Visibility and validation matter. Just because someone's experience doesn't fit neatly into a box doesn't mean their identity isn't real or deserving of recognition. So if someone tells you they're bisexual, believe them no matter who they're dating. Because love doesn't cancel identity. If anything, love should make people feel more whole, more visible, and more safe to be themselves. Bisexuality isn't a mask or a phase. It's not who they're with, it's who they are. So, now that we've explored 6 real, eye-opening facts about bisexual relationships, it's clear that the old stereotypes just don't hold up. Bi people are not confused. They're not indecisive. They're not constantly seeking something more. They're individuals with real emotions, real commitments, and real capacity for deep and lasting love. Like anyone else, they want connection, trust, safety, and to be seen for who they truly are, not just by their partners, but by their communities. One of the most important takeaways from this discussion is this: who someone is in a relationship with does not define their sexual orientation. A bisexual person doesn't stop being bi because they're in a monogamous relationship. Their identity doesn't expire when they fall in love. They don't become straight or gay based on their partner's gender. And yet, that's the message many bi people receive over and over again from strangers, friends, even within LGBTQ+ spaces. This invisibility takes a toll. Many bisexual people feel pressure to explain themselves or defend their queerness. Others may feel erased altogether, especially if they're in what looks like a heterosexual relationship. But love is not performance, and identity is not a costume you put on or take off. Bi people deserve to exist as their full selves in every space, including in their relationships. Bi relationships are as varied as the people in them. They can be deeply monogamous, joyfully polyamorous, queer in culture, straight in appearance, or anything in between. What they all share is the need for trust, communication, and respect, just like any healthy relationship. The difference is, bi individuals often carry an extra emotional labor, correcting assumptions, challenging erasure, and navigating both biphobia and bi-erasure from all sides. But here's the beautiful truth: when a bi person is fully seen, supported, and affirmed in a relationship, something incredible happens. They stop hiding. They stop apologizing. They begin to thrive. Their love becomes a place of power, not pressure. A space of belonging, not explanation. And when that kind of acceptance happens, it doesn't just change the relationship, it transforms both people within it. So if you're in a relationship with a bi person, love them out loud. Respect their identity, no matter your gender. Be the kind of partner who doesn't erase, but amplifies their truth. And if you're by yourself, never feel like you have to shrink your identity to fit someone's expectations. You are not too much or not enough. You're exactly right, and your capacity to love is a strength, not a flaw. Let's commit to building relationships that make space for all parts of our partners, not just the ones that are easy to understand. Let's honor by love, celebrate by truth, and go beyond the labels. Because in the end, real love doesn't erase, it embraces.